News out of the NFL where the Bills are promoting offensive coordinator Joe Brady to head coach. That's the latest from our Jonathan Jones. He's been with Buffalo since the 2022 season, serving as the team's offensive coordinator for the past 2 years. The Bills considered a number of outside candidates, including Brian Daboll, Anthony Lynn, Anthony Weaver, before ultimately deciding to promote Brady. That leaves the Cardinals, the Browns, and the Raiders as the only head coach openings remaining in the NFL. Jonathan Jones joins us now with this breaking news. Jonathan, how did this all come together?
So this hire for Buffalo has always been singularly about Josh Allen, about the quarterback. That's what we told you as soon as they fired Sean McDermott. We know that Josh Allen was heavily involved in the process, in the interview process, more so than any other player really in recent memory, probably going back to Peyton Manning's days with Denver. They wanted a head coach for Josh Allen, and that is why we've been telling you that it was coming down to 3 candidates. It was Brian Daboll, who had previously been the offensive coordinator in Buffalo and a Western New York native. It was Davis Webb, former NFL quarterback, close friend of Josh Allen's, who is still in the running for the Las Vegas Raiders job. And it was Joe Brady, who has been his OC the last couple of years. They've grown very close with one another because they wanted, the Bills did, continuity for the quarterback. They have, for at least another week or so, the reigning NFL MVP. They believe they have a Super Bowl caliber roster, and they want someone to get them over the hump. And so they choose the 36-year-old young head coach. He used to be the top assistant coach in college football with LSU. He had a couple of years with Carolina and Matt Rule that did not work out. But then he reinvented himself in Buffalo, learned a lot, and now he takes over on a 5-year deal, we can report, with the Buffalo Bills.
Are you surprised? You said it's all about continuity, but we have yet to see the Bills kind of get over that hump that we've been looking for. Are you surprised that they wanted to go within? And obviously making Josh Allen happy was a key priority there. But are you shocked at all about this hire?
Not really, because Josh Allen's involvement and the focal point being the quarterback was what this was all about. It was very much like this has to be about Josh. This has to be about continuity. We don't want him going into the offseason. He's probably going to have a procedure on his foot. We learned that a week or so ago. We don't want him learning a new offensive system, a new language, right? We'll figure out the rest. Clearly, Terry Pagula, the owner of the Bills, believes in this roster. He believes in Brandon Beane, the general manager, so much he promoted him to president of football operations, and now the head coach reports in to the general manager there. And so I think we can all talk about the flaws, the blemishes, the issues with Buffalo's roster, and you would start with the wide receivers and you can continue on from there. But the point about the head coach was always going to be about Josh Allen. Was it as simple as this is who Josh wants and that's who he gets? I don't think it was that simple, right? And I do believe that this was a difficult decision for Buffalo, but one that, again, if you had asked me a week ago who will ultimately be the Bills' head coach, I would have told you it will be either Brian Daboll or Joe Brady because of Josh Allen. And now we know, of course, it's Joe Brady.
You just mentioned some of the holes in that roster and some of those holes that they're going to look to address this offseason. But how much pressure is on Brady immediately to just go in there and get the job done?
You know, I said this after they fired Sean McDermott, and I still feel this way. I think that this is going to be the most pressure-packed head coaching job in the NFL. That is with all due respect to the pressure that is always on the Dallas Cowboys, right? And Brian Schottenheimer in year 2. With respect to Mike McCarthy and the Pittsburgh Steelers and whether they should reset or not and who their quarterback's going to be. With respect to the New York Jets and Aaron Glenn, who is remaking his coaching staff as we speak, 3 weeks after the end of the season, after that disastrous run. The Buffalo Bills, again, we see their free agents, and they're going to have to take a good long look about whether they're going to bring back a Joey Bosa, how they can work it out with Matt Milano. Did they get the best last squeeze out of Tre'Davious White? What they do with Jordan Poyer? I mean, there's names on here that we all know. The fact that Brandon Cooks was really their top receiver and he wasn't on their roster at Halloween really speaks to the issues on this team. So they're going to have to find a wideout. They're going to have to find more pass rush, and really on every level of the defense, some holes to fill. But when you talk about pressure, Sean McDermott is the second most successful coach in Buffalo's entire franchise history behind Marv Levy. He is a coach that there are a number of teams across the league, more than half, who would do criminal things to have the 9-year run of success that Buffalo had under Sean McDermott. And so clearly there is a belief there that they should have advanced beyond the divisional round, that they should have been playing on Sunday, that they should be playing in the Bay Area in a week and a half from now. And so because of that, Joe Brady, despite his age, despite his lack of head coaching experience, Jenny, is going to have the most pressure on him internally and externally as any coach in the NFL.
No pressure, but all the pressure. Jonathan Jones with this breaking news. JJ, we always appreciate you and all the insight that you bring. As we take a look at the head coaching carousel right now, another one knocked off this list, the Bills promoting offensive coordinator Joe Brady to be their next head coach. That just leaves the Cardinals, the Browns, and the Raiders as the only head coach openings remaining.
We continue to follow breaking news out of the NFL where the Bills are promoting offensive coordinator Joe Brady to head coach. That's the latest from our Jonathan Jones. He's been with Buffalo since the 2022 season, serving as the team's OC for the past 2 years. The Bills considered a number of outside candidates, including Brian Daboll, Anthony Lynn, Anthony Weaver, before ultimately deciding to promote from within. That leaves the Cardinals, Browns, and Raiders as the only head coaching openings remaining in the NFL. I'm Tommy Tran with Pete Prisco. Pete, what's your initial reaction to the news that Joe Brady's going to be the head coach of the Buffalo Bills?
Look, I'm not surprised. I think when Josh Allen was involved in the process, I think that told you a lot about where they might be headed. He likes Joe Brady. He likes him a lot. Look, he had a relationship with Brian Daboll as well, but I think Brian Daboll coached him a little differently than Joe Brady did. And this relationship has taken off. So I understand it. Because Joe Brady is the guy he really likes, and he likes working with him, and he likes the offense. So it makes sense for continuity purposes. It makes sense that Josh Allen was in on the interviews, and maybe he ultimately said, hey, look, why don't we just go back to where we were and hire Joe Brady? So I'm concerned a little bit about it, though, in the fact that your quarterback should have input, but should he be sitting in on interviews? I mean, that's something a little bit over the top for me. But Joe Brady and Josh Allen do have that relationship.
And they will be paired together moving forward. A few follow-ups here, Pete. Let's just first start on the field now that Joe Brady is the head coach. What are you anticipating from this offense? Not saying that Sean McDermott obviously had his hands in it, but he would have the final say on key situations, and now that turns and leans on Joe Brady.
Well, and look, I've been one of those people that thinks that the offense has been held back a little bit. And you know how I feel about Josh Allen. I think if Josh Allen plays fast and free and loose, he's a much better player. And people will say he turns the ball over. Well, if you turn the ball over and you throw for 370 yards and 4 touchdowns, who cares? And that's, I think they need to get to that. And it's not just, Buffalo. It's across the league. Teams are scared. They play really conservatively these days, and I think that needs to change. And I think Joe Brady, if you go back and look at his history, when he was at LSU and he had all those weapons, he threw it all over the place. I think they need to get back to that. Look, James Cook's a heck of a back. They ran the ball, and they did a lot of good things. But you don't get chunk plays, and they need to get back to getting chunk plays in the passing game. They need to get a speed receiver, and they need to really let Josh Allen be Josh Allen. And I think that's maybe what Joe Brady will do this year. Because Sean McDermott, he wanted to play good defense, run the ball, and keep the scores down, and that's not necessarily how you play in this league anymore.
We were talking about, again, Josh Allen's input into who the next head coach would be, but just given Terry Pagula, the owner's public comments about the previous coaching staff, which was Sean McDermott, and by extension Joe Brady, did it surprise you that they were going to hire from within?
Well, when you look at it, I think initially they went out and did their due diligence and talked to people and had Joe Brady in the background, and they decided, look, in the end, he's our best candidate. So if you really believe that, then hire him. And it's not like they didn't go through the process. They could have just said, look, we're firing Sean McDermott, we're going to promote Joe Brady, but they didn't do that. So I think they felt good about it. When they went out on the process, and once the process was completed, they came back to it and said, you know what, he is our best candidate. I have no problem with that. I am concerned with the way they play offensive football. I said that before. I didn't think Joe Brady had a great year calling plays. Look, and he's restricted by not having the big play wide receivers, but too often it was run, try a bubble screen, now ask Josh Allen to go make a play. You got to be able to be more aggressive on first down, and I think ultimately he will be. I think that's who he is at his core. And I remember having a conversation with him in the summer. I said, look, you don't have a number one wide receiver. What do you do? He goes, we're not worried about it. The ball will get to the right guy. Okay, the ball can get to the right guy, but you'd like that right guy to be 65 yards down the field for a touchdown once in a while, too. And I think that's something they need to pick up in free agency or in the draft.
I only bring it up. Pagula was targeting Keon Coleman, said the staff was pushing for him, which Joe Brady, of course, was on McDermott's staff. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the offseason and, of course, with the upcoming draft. Pete, before I let you go here, guys in the back, can we bring up those head coaching vacancies, which is only have like 3 left now that we have Joe Brady promoted from within? Pete, as you take a look at what Buffalo has in store, Steelers and Bills are only playoff teams on this list. Cap gymnastics will have to be in play. They don't have a lot to spend here. What are your realistic expectations for the Bills with Joe Brady next season?
He'll be right back in the mix again. They have that guy. For people out there saying the window is closed, and look at that free agency list and look at the age of those guys. I mean, of all those guys, how many do you really want back? I mean, I think Connor McGovern you'd like to have back as your center, but the rest of those guys, if they all walked off into the sunset, I don't think you would have a problem with it. So I think age has become an issue on that team. And one thing Sean McDermott did push, he pushed playing veteran players. He didn't like to play the younger players. Well, they drafted a younger corner. He got hurt. He got banged up. He'll be a starting corner next year, Maxwell Hairston. So I think that's what the push is going to be. Younger players, get more aggressive on offense. And on defense, look, they started to change the way they played on defense last year. Late in the season, they blitzed more. They played more aggressively, and I think that's something they will do going forward as well. So I think there's going to be changes in structure, changes in strategy, and I have no problem with it. But the Bills will be right back in the mix. And, in fact, if you ask me right now, even though New England's in the Super Bowl, I'd probably pick Buffalo to win the division.
That's the early lean from Pete Prisco, who puts our weekly power rankings together during the season. Pete, certainly appreciate it. Thanks for the insight on the Joe Brady promotion for the Buffalo Bills. That's what we do here on CBS Sports HQ. Yes, we hit every highlight, but breaking news, instant reaction. It's streaming for free 24/7.